Okay, until you're 35. I go back to work and I'm like, oh, I should be careful about how much sugar I eat. And then I'm like, I'm going to buy a stress. And then, what a waste of time. I thought
All right, so it's Chris here. So, I mean, I'm live right now. I'm ready to lie. I didn't mean to go live. It's supposed to be by accident. I think that was like a big mistake, but it's whatever. All right, so I'm here, you know, talk to some people in my press capacity. You can see my press capacity here, guys and gals. So right here we have right now is the Pro Intro 632 rally that's hosted by Fair Chance for Housing, Community Voices Heard, Cases, Freedom Agenda, WJCA, I think it's Closed Rosie's, and Vocal New York, and I think the Forces Society. I think I said it before. And Exodus Transition, and then you have the Public Advocate Office there, John Scott over there, the Public Advocate. A lot of people I say, so those Jamai's gonna come. I didn't post to go live, but I'm live right now. Yeah, I'm coming to the Rosa staffer here, so most likely she's going to be here later on. So I didn't mean to go live. I'm on right now. Might as well stay on. It's going to start soon. You know, hopefully start soon. So. Files. So yeah, it's not bad. There's another rally uptown on the west side, Hudson Yards, about the street vendor project. They hosted that rally. I didn't want to go to that. I mean, I just told people, I said, I'm not going to support that. I'm not going to cover that. You know, it's kind of a story I can't make on this live. So I'm just going to go live this right here. So they're going to be on this side right here.
Okay, everyone, if we can move.
So they're about to start soon. So.
We're going to start convening everybody. Hello, how y'all doing? Andre Moore, how are you?
Hey, how's it going? Good to see you.
My press capacity, guys. Press capacity. Oh.
Well, I mean, anybody really wants to do the right thing.
Don't be bashful, folks. Y'all can come on in.
Fortune folks on the side.
Yeah, that's all right.
Sorry, some of us right over here.
They're going to be... Sorry about that. Sorry.
Hey, you get closer to the house.
Ah, nice.
What's up, brother?
A lot of photographs. I know. It was going to be more complicated. Fight, fight, fight. Fight, fight, fight. Fight, fight, fight. And then you start on this side, and everyone takes 2% and sits down. Actually, I was so focused. Open it up now. Oh. Yeah, yeah.
Good morning, everybody. How you doing this morning? All right. Are we fired up this morning? Yeah. How we doing this morning? Good. Housing is a human right? Fight, fight, fight. Housing is a human right? Fight, fight, fight. Housing is a human right? Fight, fight, fight. Housing is a human right. Fight, fight, fight. That's it? Yes. Window. Yes, sir. Start off? Yes, please.
Just 2 sentences about yourself.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I'm Wendell from the Osborne Association. I'm from New York City. I have a dog.
All right. Sarita. 2 sentences about yourself. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarita. Wait, what was the guidance? Just 2 sentences about yourself as a community member, resident of New York City. Okay, great. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarita. I live in East New York. I love living there, and I want everyone to be a home to be able to live there too.
My name is Lee, and I'm from Flatbush, Brooklyn.
Yeah!
Hi, my name is Judy, and I work as the community justice advocate for our children.
I'm an industry leader. I work in Long Island City at the Sports Society, and I'm a fucking name biscuit.
My name is Saber. I work at the Sports Society and I live on the Upper West Side.
Hi, I'm Nadia. I live in Harlem, and I love to bake.
I am also Nadia, and I live in Brooklyn, and I love to dance.
Hi, I'm Catherine, and I'm an advocate and co-pastor, and survivors of domestic violence, and also survivor of the system.
Yeah!
Hi, good morning. I'm Cam, and I think that protesting is right.
That's right. Because housing is a human right?
Fight, fight, fight!
Housing is a human right?
Fight, fight, fight!
Housing is a human right.
Fight, fight, fight!
Again, hold up your signs, folks. Let people see those signs. You just heard from each person a little bit about themselves. But did you know if any of them had a conviction history? The people with convictions look just like us.
That's right.
And so we're here this morning to make sure that the fair chance for housing legislation is passed. Because we know that housing is a human right.
Fight, fight, fight!
Housing is a human right.
Fight, fight, fight!
Housing is a human right.
Fight, fight, fight!
My name is Andre Ward. I'm the Associate Vice President of Policy at the Fortune Society. We joined the coalition of Fair Chance for Housing, and all of the advocates that you see here are council members that join us to ensure that fair chance for housing legislation is passed. We know that people who have conviction histories deserve a right to be housed just like anybody else. And we know to discriminate against them based on their conviction is wrong. It's wrong, right?
That ain't
It's
right.
wrong, and that ain't right.
That ain't right.
We believe that people who have conviction histories shouldn't be looked at based on their histories, but should be looked at based on what their future will be,
That's right.
what their destiny will be.
That's right.
I'll say that one more time. We have to be more concerned about people's destiny and not their history. And that's why we're here today, to ensure that people get access to housing irrespective of what they've been convicted for. Now, we have some powerful speakers that are joining us today. We have some of our city council members that are joining us. We're going to bring them up so we can hear from them. But it's really important to understand, in New York City right now, there are over 750,000 people that have conviction histories. That translates into about 11% of the adult population. That's a lot of people. That means every day that you walk around these streets here in New York, somebody that's next to you, somebody that's living nearby you, somebody that you bought water from, somebody you bought food from, somebody that you purchased something from a Walgreens, a CVS, a Target, is someone that has a conviction history. You patronize the stores that they work in. You purchase things from them. And yet, they're still being discriminated against because of their conviction history. And we know that ain't right.
That ain't right.
At this time, we're going to bring up somebody who's been a strong champion and advocate for the work. She really needs no introduction because of our strong support and care for her and a deep commitment to ensuring that people, whether they have conviction histories or not, and all New Yorkers are treated equitably, justly, and fairly. Help me to bring up none other than Councilmember De La Rosa.
Thank you, Andre. Thank you all for being here. Thank you. So Andre said it best, and I'm not going to take us to church, but I'm going to say, those of us that are free from sin cast the first stone. None of us are. The reality is that we are not the sum of our worst mistakes. The reality is that New Yorkers and people who live in our community deserve the opportunity to rebuild their lives. You heard them. You heard what they do. You heard what they love to do. So why is it that in a time when we are supposed to be investing in reentry services in our city, we still have to have a conversation about how to house people with dignity? We know that housing is a human right. So are human rights only for the select few? That is the question that we need to ask ourselves when we debate against this bill. When you walk in the street, do you know who's walking next to you? Do you know who's working at the establishments where you purchase your food? Do you know who's sitting next to you at a train station? More likely than not, there are people who want to rebuild and contribute to their communities. I believe in the dignity of all the people that are standing here today. The work that they've done, because I've seen them go from City Hall to the state legislature to Washington to advocate for people who are New Yorkers. Now, in a time when we are in a housing crisis, when we're saying that we need to address the underlying conditions of homelessness, how is it that we are okay with continuing to put barriers for people who are coming back home and want to rebuild their lives? I want to ask folks, how do you rebuild your life without a roof over your head? How do you maintain a job without a roof over your head? How do you reconnect with your community if you're not allowed to live in your community? And so it is imperative that we take the right steps to ensure that people can reintegrate into their community, that they can fulfill their own potential. And we do that in the first place by giving them stable housing. So I support this legislation.
Yes.
You know that we stand with you all to make sure that we are moved to action because the time is right now. 750,000 New Yorkers. And how many of those are living in homeless shelters right now? The way we move people from homeless shelter into a life of perspective, into a life of purpose, is by giving them the opportunity to be housed. Come live next to me. Because I want your passion, I want your drive, I want your commitment to our communities and to rebuild the city that we all deserve. Thank you for the opportunity, and we're going to keep fighting until we get this done. Thank you.
Housing is a human right.
Fight, fight, fight.
Housing is a human right.
Fight, fight, fight.
Housing is a human right.
Fight, fight, fight.
Thank you, Councilmember De La Rosa, for your strong leadership and your bold support of this important piece of legislation. We have Councilmember Restler here, and we're going to bring up in a minute. But it's important. You cannot ignore people with conviction history. You can't believe that we don't exist. We have families. We're leaders in our communities. we're supporting strongly in areas where many New Yorkers may not even want to go and support. And therefore, housing is a fundamental right that continues to sustain us and keep us stable in the world. At this time, I want to bring up somebody who has been in this work as an advocate with me, a strong sister from WCJA. Let's help welcome Leah from WCJA.
Good morning, family. Good morning. I said good morning, family.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Leah Farry, and I'm the Director of Community Liaisons for the Women's Community Justice Association, where we do the work to end mass incarceration for women, families, and gender-expansive people. I'm here today because I am impacted. I am here today because I am a returning citizen, and returning citizens like myself deserve fair and equal housing opportunities. Women are especially vulnerable to housing discrimination based on criminal convictions. When I was released in 2019, I struggled to obtain housing. I served 22 years in prison without one single infraction. I was a prime candidate to return to the community. I obtained a job 30 days after I was released. I was able to pay my rent, yet no landlord would rent to me. I'm going to echo my sister and my brother. 750,000 people in New York City have convictions, and 80% are of the black and brown communities. That ain't right. That ain't right. There's always talk about public safety, right? Well, let's talk about public safety. One thing we do know that there is no evidence that a person with a criminal conviction is going to be a dangerous or harmful tenant. That's right. What is proven, though, is that by providing a returning citizen with health care, housing, and employment will make our community safer. Woo.
That's right.
Because it would keep returning citizens from committing unlawful acts just to survive. Housing is a discrimination that contributes to homelessness, neighborhood disinvestment, and concentrated poverty. We have to stop demonizing people with criminal convictions. It's about giving first, second, third, and fourth chances to people like myself, and regardless to what we may have done in the past. We deserve fair, equal, and safe housing. Fight, fight, fight. Housing is a human right.
Fight.
Housing is a human right.
Fight.
Housing is a human right.
Fight.
Thank you guys, and we have to keep fighting until this is passed. And then the work continues because we're not going to stop. That's right.
That's right. Thank you, Leah, for that. Housing is a human right.
Fight.
Housing is a human right.
Fight.
Housing is a human right.
Fight.
We're not giving up on this. No matter what people say, we're going to continue to fight to ensure that this legislation is passed. We know that in the United States, it has the highest incarceration rate in the world. And to perpetually punish people based on their conviction histories does not speak to our humanity. It speaks more to our ignorance as a nation and what we need to begin to start doing to change that condition. I said in the very beginning that we are not concerned with people's history. We are more concerned with what?
Their destiny.
We are not concerned with people's history. We are concerned with their what?
Destiny.
Speaking of destiny, we know that we had city council members that strongly support this legislation. And we want to make sure that they're acknowledged. One of those members who's also been a strong advocate alongside with Council Member De La Rosa is none other than Council Member Restler. Let's bring up Council Member Restler with the warm round of applause.
Let's give it up for Andre. Andre mentioned the ignorance of our nation. There is no greater injustice that we have experienced over the last 50 years in the United States of America than the horrors of mass incarceration. From slavery to Jim Crow to mass incarceration. Too many black and brown New Yorkers have been swept up in the net of mass incarceration and taken away to jails and prisons. And as we finally start to turn the corner, finally start to reduce the the toll, the numbers in jails and in prisons across the state of New York, what do? We discriminate against people who are trying to access housing.
That ain't right.
It is not right.
No, not right.
Even Eric Adams, even Mayor Adams, did a survey, the biggest survey of its kind. Hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers responded about what is the #1 solution to public safety. And do you know what the answer is?
Housing.
It's housing.
Talk about it.
It is housing. But if you're exiting jail, if you are exiting prison, and you can't access housing, just as Councilmember De La Rosa said, how are you going to be able to hold down a job? How are you going to be able to access the health care you need? How are you going to be able to take care of your family? You cannot do it with housing. It all starts with housing. And you know what? It is disgraceful that the law of the land in the city of New York allows landlords to discriminate. It is a shame on all of us that the laws are discriminatory, and that is why this city council must act. We brought the mayor's team in to testify. I couldn't tell where they stood on this bill. They said this, they said that, they were all over the place. They didn't give a clear position. But what I know is this: 31 members of this New York City Council, a clear majority, support fair chance for housing.
That's right.
When the Progressive Caucus came together and said, what are our priorities for the year ahead? Top of the list, fair chance for housing. We must end discrimination in housing for people who are formerly incarcerated. It is wrong. It is shameful. It can end. It must end. 2023 is the year that we're going to do it. Let's keep fighting together until we get it done. Thank you.
Housing is a human right.
Fight, fight, fight.
Housing is a human right.
Fight, fight, fight.
Housing is a human right.
Fight, fight, fight.
Somewhere, I think in one of the monotheistic faiths, I think in the Christian community, they say something about faith without works is dead. And so in order to really demonstrate what faith is, you have to be doing something. We're demonstrating our faith here today by making sure that we sustain our commitment to ensuring that fair chance for housing legislation is passed. That's why we're here, right?
That's right.
And so we would be not in the right way of moving in this way if we didn't have someone from the faith community as a part of it to demonstrate the faith community's support for fair chance for housing legislation. And with that, I want to bring up Pastor Carl. Where's Pastor Carl at? Pastor Carl, you around? Let's bring up Pastor Carl.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. My name is Brother Carl, Pastor Carl. I'm a member of the community. I'm the minister of homeless outreach. And folks with conventions look like me, a black man. Amen.
Amen.
Let me tell you something. In my tradition, we have the prophet Isaiah. And as Isaiah 10 says, shame on those who make unjust laws. Shame and woe unto those who have unjust decrees against those who are in need and those who are poor and those who are oppressed. Shame. Shame. You know something? This initiative right here. It's also a shame that people don't recognize what's already on the books.
Right.
Right? Low barrier for housing. Is that on the books? Is that on the books? Low barrier? Right? It's partial. Recognize some of that. Recognize some of that. I believe that people should not be judged by what they do. You don't know who I am. You don't know what I've done. But my destiny, like Brother Andre was saying, is ahead of me. When we do this, we play games. These are just racist, xenophobic games that people love to play. It may play well in Washington and in Congress, but it doesn't play in New York City. In New York City, we try to keep it real. We try to keep it fair, and we try our best to be just oriented. This legislation is for everybody. People can't live without housing. People can't contribute without housing. It always breaks my heart as a minister to meet brothers and sisters who are coming in and who have issues, who have concerns, and they can't get housing. Some of those brothers and sisters have situations similar. And I just pray that we are going to be here always until the end to make sure that this is a reality for all New Yorkers. Every single New Yorker, everybody, all of us. It doesn't play here in the city. We can fight this. Isaiah was right. And again, I don't want to shame anybody. But woe unto those in power. Woe unto you. Shame on you, man. Shame on you. I mean, how in the world can you expect to have a city that's worthy? How can you look toward your God or your creator and say, hey, I've done good? No, you can't do that. I want to be positive, but right now I can't. Amen.
Amen. Housing is a human right.
Fight, fight, fight.
Housing is a human right.
Fight, fight, fight.
Housing is a human right.
Fight, fight, fight.
You know, we have all of these organizational representatives behind us. And I want to make sure that they're acknowledged. Because it's one thing for people to stand with us. It's another thing to acknowledge that they're standing with us because they understand the significance of that. So I want to acknowledge these organizations that's standing with us today. I want to acknowledge CVH. Woo! A round of applause, and our dear leader, Allison, and moves this stuff along tirelessly and seemingly effortlessly. It's a lot of shit. The Fortune Society. The Osborne Association. WCJA. Exodus Transitional Community. Night Club. Community Service Society. Cases.
Our children.
Our children. Our Lee Foreigner Center. Vocal New York. Legal Aid Society. Certainly Freedom Agenda. And all other organizations that are represented here. The Public Advocate. Around. And speaking of organizations, I want to bring up our dear brother who's also a part of the steering committee of Fair Chance for Housing Coalition from the Osborne Association. Help me to welcome Wendell Walton from the
I don't talk off the cuff as easy as these folks that wrote a few words down on my phone. We got to do something to address the housing crisis in New York City. No, not the housing crisis that we all suffer from, where rents outpace income and where New Yorkers pay more than half of their income on housing. I'm talking about the housing crisis with discrimination and public safety. There are almost a million New York City residents like me who have a conviction history. They have often been subject to housing discrimination. They are shut out, literally shut out from housing. Landlords won't even show them an apartment, even though they have the income and the qualifications. We can't leave them to the streets to fend for themselves and risk return to incarceration. We must give them a fair chance.
That's right.
A fair chance for housing. A fair chance to rebuild their lives. We must end housing discrimination for the previously incarcerated. Housing is a human right.
Fight, fight, fight.
Housing is a human right.
Fight, fight, fight.
We must fight. We must fight for those rights. Pass the Fair Chance for Housing bill in New York City Council. Thank you.
Woo! Thank you, Wendell, for that. Before folks turn those signs around, let people see what the sign says on the other side. It says, my community is not more dangerous because I live there. It says, my community is not more dangerous because I live there. And we have city council members that believe that. They believe that we are not more dangerous because we live in our community. And so I want to read at least a couple of the statements that some of the council members have shared in support of fair chance for housing legislation. And I'll start with Keith Powers. Keith Powers said the stability and dignity that comes with having a place to call home is crucial to allow informally incarcerated people to move past the criminal justice system. And Keith Powers is the majority leader of City Council and the prime sponsor of this bill. He said housing is fundamental or foundational to so many facets of one's life, from community ties to holding down a job, and we must act To end housing discrimination, everyone deserves equal access to a home. Because housing is a human right.
Fight, fight, fight!
Housing is a human right.
Fight, fight, fight!
Housing is a human right.
Fight, fight, fight!
This comes from Assemblymember Eddie Gibbs, the first formerly incarcerated Assemblymember in the history of New York State. And I quote, "The Fair Chance for Housing Act will allow New Yorkers with conviction histories to establish ties with the community, obtain stable housing, and continue contributing to society. I wholeheartedly believe the 750,000 people in New York City who have conviction histories deserve an equal opportunity to access housing. An individual's conviction history doesn't solely affect them, it can affect their family, as well as lead to a never-ending cycle of instability. I urge New York to support this legislation. Let's build bridges to help New Yorkers get back on their feet." That's Assemblymember Eddie Gibbs. I'm not going to read all of these quotes because we'll be able to share it with you that you can circulate it with your networks. Now, housing is a human right.
Fight, fight, fight!
Housing is a human right.
Fight, fight, fight!
Housing is a human right.
Fight, fight, fight!
We're going to continue to fight to ensure that this legislation is passed. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. We love you, and we know we're going to get this done. All right, that's it. For now.
Metro cards.
All right, so that's over.